I just realised that doing content creation is the first time I've managed to hold a job down for more than 18 months. And to be fair, usually I didn't last much longer than a year. I know that on one hand, it's a privilege as an autistic person to be able to get employed. I always at least managed to get through the interview stage and the probation period, and until my physical disabilities got in the way, I could always manage to get some kind of minimum wage service job. I worked all kinds of service jobs, from Claire's Accessories to a pizza place in a factory outlet mall, bartender at an old man pub, bartender at a late night cocktail bar, bartender at another late night cocktail bar, bartender at Frankie and Benny's, bartender in a bar restaurant on Lake Wanaka. I was cook in a pub kitchen, sandwich maker in a Galway hotel, barista on an island in New Zealand. I kind of liked that one. I lasted the longest at that one. I'm going to talk more about that one. I would always burn out, always before I was considered for any kind of promotion. I would lose the ability to mask. Customers and managers would start getting annoyed with me. They'd start talking to me like I'm a child. Customers would get aggressive and managers would start hovering around me, nitpicking. My hours would get cut. And the other workers, the ones who seemed to get along with anyone, they'd be put up for extra training and promotions, given extra hours on the roster. When I worked a job, that was all I did. All I could do. I was exhausted at the end of every shift, to the point that even having something to eat before collapsing for the night seemed like too much. I had sleep for dinner, an awful lot. My executive functioning beyond the job was non-existent. My home was a constant mess. Probably smelt. I didn't see friends and family for months on end. My mental health would be in the bin. And I didn't even have enough energy to engage in special interests after work, at least beyond watching YouTube videos about them. Game of Thrones fan theory YouTubers? You got me through some tough times. Colleagues stop inviting you to social events when you always say no, but I always said no. I couldn't understand how they could muster up the energy after working a full shift. I needed to go home. I needed quiet. I needed to not have any input, to not be required to give any output. It wasn't that I didn't want to make friends. It was that the social aspects of the job were already too much. When you never last long at any job, your resume starts to look like a big old red flag to employers. Your ability to gain employment becomes less. Managers wonder why somebody who has worked in the hospitality industry for so many years was never offered any further responsibility. I could run a bar with my eyes closed, so long as I didn't have to engage with customers. So if I didn't have content creation, small though my channel may still be, if it wasn't for the opportunity that it gives me, if it wasn't for the fact that I am lucky, nay, privileged enough to have met somebody who is just neurodivergent enough to get me, to love me as I am, but who can also work full time to pay the bills. If it wasn't for other people, my audience and my partner, my future would look bleak. I'm physically disabled and I have to take a lot of time off work. Even though these days I can work from my couch, there are still days when I can't even do that. This fact and the pitiful state of my resume, my utter unemployability in anything that isn't short-lived and minimum waged, it's kind of terrifying. Autistic and otherwise disabled people who cannot work have to battle with benefit systems and apathetic governments for scraps, sacrificing their dignity and their fundamental rights for a chance to receive not enough. And those who have been deemed by those same apathetic governments to be fit to work face hostility in the workplace and inevitable unemployability without any recognition. This can force people into being exploited into unsafe conditions just to survive. Either way, life can feel like nothing but survival. But maybe there's some things that can be done. Everyone become a YouTuber. There. Fixed it. No? All right then. I said I liked one of my jobs. Maybe it's worth exploring what made that job different. I mean, it's not like I woke up looking forward to going in or anything. There were still many aspects about it that I disliked and became overwhelmed by. But it was basically the only service job where I legitimately had some fun. Sometimes. Where I legitimately got on with my colleagues. Mostly. Where I lasted longer than all the rest. A bit. So what was different? Apart from the fact that most of my colleagues were just like really sound people, I think there were some autism-friendly aspects to that role that are worth thinking about. So I was a barista in a cafe, and I was usually the only barista on shift. I had to open up the cafe. I turned up at about 7 a.m. shortly after the chef who opens up. And while the chef was opening up the kitchen, getting the fryers on, making the muffins for today, I had to set up front of house. I had to get all the tables and chairs out, set them all up, get the lights on, get the boards ready, open up the coffee machine, set the grind, measure the shots, just generally open up, pick the playlist for the day, and most importantly, make chef a coffee. I would serve the first few customers who were in through the door, who were always regulars, always ordered the same thing, sat in the same spot. And by the time the breakfast rush started, there were more staff on the floor and a manager on duty. And I would retreat behind the coffee machine to make drinks and nothing more. Ticket machine, go burr. Coffee machine, go service bell, go ding. It was a busy place, especially in peak season, so there was a lot of pressure on the only barista. And of course, there was a fair share of complicated orders. You know what I hated most though? Dry cappuccino bowls. Alright, so if you don't know, cappuccino is usually an espresso shot, and then you pour a little bit of milk in, and then you fill the rest up with foam. A dry cappuccino is with no milk, so it's just all milk foam. You don't pour any milk in, you do an espresso shot, and then it's just the foam from the top of the milk from after you've steamed it. Do you know how much milk you have to steam to get enough foam to fill a bowl?
I'll get 4 of them, please.
Instant hatred. But it was stressful. There was a lot going on. You had to keep an eye on the pass too to make sure the drinks were being run before they got cold or before the foam went all bubbly and You had to make sure that the bar was fully stocked at all times. You had to wash the glasses, and importantly, most importantly, coffee for chef. And the whole time, customers would be like leaning over the coffee machine, trying to get me to do things that isn't even my job, actually, thank you. Do I look like I know where your food is? Get away. But I managed it. Sometimes I don't quite know how I managed it. The managers would even say that they liked it when I was on shift because I was so organised and I was quick. And the customers liked my coffee. Not only that, but after work, I would go swimming. I would stay out all day until the sun started setting. I would read books and then I would walk up the hill home. Granted, I still didn't cook, but I did make sure to eat some porridge or something before sleep. It was the healthiest I have ever been. It was 8 years ago, and it was unlike anything that came before or since. I'm sure some autistic viewers out there have already picked up on some of the reasons why I slayed in that role. It was by far the most predictable service job I have ever done. And my interaction one-on-one with customers was minimal. I really don't do well in the face of difficult customers. I have very little patience, practically zero chill. If someone is being confrontational with me or threatening me, I can't do the customer service thing. I can't do that whole, that sort of like, okay, sir, I am going to have to ask you to lower your voice, okay? I just kind of freeze. I get choked up. I want to quit on the spot, there and then. I want to rip off my apron and throw it in their face and run away. I did that once. Quit on the spot, like just walked out, like stormed off out of my shift, like, I quit. You'll never see me again. It was the most exhilarating thing I've ever done. So much fun. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Although, to be fair, I'm perfectly honest, it was my second to last shift anyway, so it wasn't like the biggest deal, but still, I did it. I did the thing. The movie of my life has that scene in it, and I'd do it again. I'm not sure you can rage quit when you're self-employed, but I'm willing to give it a go. Sorry, where was I? Customers. I could ignore them. At that job, I could hyper-focus. I learned all about how to work the machine, learned how to make good coffee from a prize-winning barista. I had the muscle memory down. I had my little routine with every single coffee that I made. You have never seen such efficiency. I was good at it. I was good at working the machine. I was good at steaming milk. I was good at making beautiful little drinks. Also, bartending, it's so much cleaner than waitressing. Like, you normally get fewer tips if it's a bar restaurant. At least I usually did places where I worked. But then on the other hand, when I have to touch people's leftovers and old napkins, my soul leaves my body. So the times when I had to work on the floor, or as the cashier, the person taking orders and payments and like preparing cakes and stuff, I regularly got overwhelmed to the point of tears. People talking at you from all different angles, all the complaints and the special orders, and Americans trying to pay in dollars. The cleaning up after the 5 kids who just trashed the place in less than 20 minutes. All the constant movement, the heat from the kitchen, the smells and the texture of the food. The having to coordinate and communicate with a stressed out kitchen and then present a calm and patient front to the customer. I crumble. My resting bitch face becomes extremely active bitch face, but the coffee machine was a barrier. I got to pick the playlist, and there was a speaker just right behind me, and there was a window right in front of me, and I got to tell customers that I'm so sorry, but I simply can't leave the coffee machine, but if you go up to the front, someone there will help you. I basically danced my shifts away, making coffee without thinking while looking out the window and dancing to some of my favourite songs. I could be in my own little world, and I smashed it. And again, this could be an extremely busy place, ticket machine go burr constantly for 4 hours straight kind of place, but I got to hyper focus. I could zone in, and at the end of the day I had to clean up after my own mess. Closing down the coffee machine, cleaning out the glass washer, or at weekends simply handing over to the evening shift. It suited me. I felt confident in the role because I felt separated from the chaos of the busy cafe by the machine and the music. I'm sharing all this with you because, I don't know, maybe there's a manager out there, maybe there's an employer watching this, wondering what they can do to make their working environment friendlier for autistic people. There's a lot of advice already out there about like office spaces, but honestly, a lot of us wouldn't even get through the application stage for a corporate job. A 9 to 5 can seem like a pipe dream to many people. A stable contract and set hours at reasonable times of the day must be nice. But there are ways to make autistic retail and hospitality workers more comfortable. There is work to be done in your business that might be well suited to autistic people. Like, obviously don't go making any decisions before actually consulting with your autistic workers, but think about how you structure your shifts and your rosters so that you can put people into positions that they are more comfortable and confident in. There are many reasons why I succeeded in that role, and many more reasons why I burned out in others. Take into account the individuals working under you, not just the role that you hired for. Because if your neurodivergent employees are struggling and your impulse is to reduce their hours, to micromanage them, to not offer them further opportunities, then you are not running an accessible business. There's often this idea in retail and hospitality that the workers need to be kind of jacks of all trades. I did a couple of shifts at Primark once, and they had us doing everything. They had us like jumping around from the warehouse, then onto the tools, then out onto the floor helping customers. And you needed to know where everything was and how much everything is and how to fold everything. See why I only lasted 2 shifts. Employers always want to try to do more with less. Have workers work harder and harder for less to cover more ground with fewer personnel. This is something that needs to be challenged for all workers. This is why we need unions. This is why we need worker ownership. Giving your neurodivergent workers more autonomy over their shifts. Allowing them time to settle into the day quietly, like I could do when I was setting up the cafe by myself, quietly, mentally preparing. Allowing them to gain some space from customers, from the noise, from the chaos when needed. Aiming to bring a sense of predictability to the role and to the duties required. All of this is helpful. I worked hospo jobs where I would learn on arrival to my shift whether I would be making sandwiches or working as a cashier or working out on the floor or doing restocking and polishing there and then. Avoid that. When disabled people are deemed fit for work by the powers that be, we need employers to take our well-being seriously. And that goes for any unionised or even worker-owned companies too. Because disabled workers may be a minority at your company, and so they need to be considered by the rest. There are ways to not only enable autistic people to work, but to build careers, isn't there? Careers with benefits and a livable, thrivable wage with a pension and all the security and peace of mind that comes with it. Because right now, we are being deprived. Of course, in my ideal world, we wouldn't need to work to survive. Basic human needs would be available to all. There would be no need for an appeal to employers because employment hierarchies wouldn't exist. I mean, all of this is possible right now. It's not that idealistic, but it's not the case right now. And I don't see anything that's leading me to believe that it's going to happen imminently. So if there is something that you, as an employer, as a union leader, as a voter, can do to make disabled lives a little bit better, then do that, please. You have a choice that many of us do not have. Choose well, because right now we are being deprived. My situation has only recently changed in my late 30s because I have been lucky enough to have been helped by others. By you watching this, my colleagues, my friends, my partner, anyone who has supported my work, be it financially or just saying nice things about it. You have saved me. Things can get desperate for autistic people quickly. When you have no savings, no job security, no health insurance, no one to fall back on. Life can fall apart quickly. If you're an employer, you have power. This Autism Awareness Day, week, month, whatever, take steps to make your workplace more accessible to all disabled workers. Listen to what they need from you and implement it. Nobody needs another listening session that goes nowhere. You have power. You can choose to make the lives of those working for you better or worse. Choose well. Thank you for watching. For this Autism Awareness time, why not share the work of some autistic people? There's loads of us and we make really cool things. Do you have anything to add to the conversation? No, I believe I have added enough with my presence. And that's enough of that. Oh, Jesus. It's springtime. My heart goes out to my fellow cat owners. Oh my God.